here today to talk about some property tax reform that was just signed into law, and I know there's probably many people confused on this. Let's start a little bit focusing with House Bill 186. Give me a little bit of an overview of what House Bill 186 does, and if you could explain a little bit of this 20 mil floor that keeps being talked about with school districts, that would be helpful.
So, the issue of tax relief in general has been a hot topic around the state for the better part of a couple of years now. I know among the county auditors, we have been working on this issue for at least 2 years. And one of the topics that keeps coming up when you start talking about property taxes, of course, it's school funding. And because 60% of every property tax dollar goes to support local schools. And so you can't talk about tax relief or tax burdens without talking about schools and school funding. And so that's been a hot topic in this state for most of my life, to be honest with you. I mean, we have been talking about excessive, overburdened property taxes for schools since the 1980s. So this has been a topic going on for a long time. If you talk to enough people, they'll remind you that there was a effort to the Supreme Court ruled property taxes to fund local schools was ruled unconstitutional at one point, I think 3 different times. They'll say, the lottery was supposed to solve our school funding problem, and that didn't turn out. Gambling, the casinos, so it's been a topic for a long, long time with people, and most of it centers around this issue of the 20 mil floor. And you're right. I mean, it's very confusing. It's very confusing for me. I think a year ago, most people, including members of the state legislature, had never heard of the 20 mil floor, didn't know what a significant topic or issue that was and how it affected school funding. And of course, it doesn't affect every school, and that's part of the reason. But it affects most schools in Ohio. Now, it doesn't affect most schools in Montgomery County. So I think that's another reason why we're kind of unfamiliar with it here. There are 16 school districts in Montgomery County, local school districts. Only 3 of those districts are at what we call the 20 mil floor. And what that means is the state has passed a law that guarantees that every school gets at least 20 mils, must have at least 20 mils dedicated to local schools. So as property values have gone up significantly across the state, when property values go up, there are triggers that force us to lower the tax rate. And so that's been going on. We've been lowering that tax rate as values have gone up. But when you reach a limit of 20 mil floor, and it's a floor, you can't go any lower than that. So that's what's happened in these school districts that we say are at the 20 mil floor. The values have gone up so high that they can't go any lower in terms of the rate, which means now as the values go up, you're paying that dollar for dollar. And that's where we've been seeing the largest spikes in the state here recently in terms of property taxes that people have been screaming about in the last couple of years. And it's a result of the real estate market, quite frankly. The real estate market is hot. Prices are off the charts. And so that's been going on for a while now, and that's forcing values to go up. And if you're in a 20 mil floor situation, you're paid dollar for dollar for your school taxes. You're paying dollar for dollar as those values go up. And that's the burden that people have really been seeing here recently, and why they've complained so loudly.
And you said there's only 3 districts in Montgomery County, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What are those districts that are at that 20?
So it's Miamisburg schools, New Lebanon schools, and Germantown or Valley View. And so I think it's the New Lebanon School District, Miamisburg School District, and the Valley View School District. So it's kind of the 3 mostly rural districts in the corner, south corner of the state or western side of the county. Every other school district is not at the floor, and so they have not seen the types of increases that those 3 districts have. But across the state and from our neighbors, surrounding neighbors, Warren County and Preble County, most of all of their schools are at the 20 mil floor. Greene County, Miami County, all of their school districts are at the 20 mil floor. So they have really been hurt by this as values have gone up and paying these what we call spikes in their taxes.
Absolutely. And so just so I'm clear, so you said that is, the 20 mil was a state law saying that this is the basically like the minimum budget that a district can operate under?
Correct.
I'm understanding that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. But other districts that are, like we're talking about, there's a lot more districts that aren't on that floor. They are operating at higher budgets. Is that correct? And
Well,
is that mainly because of levies that are passed?
They're levies that they have passed that's kept them up above the floor. And so places like Dayton and Kettering and Centerville, Huber Heights, Northmont, they have passed levies that have kept them above the 20 mil floor, despite the fact that we have lowered the rates as the values have gone up, but they have not gotten so low that they've reached the 20 mil floor. In Ohio, there's about 611 public schools districts in Ohio, and roughly 400 of those are at the 20 mil floor. So most districts, particularly in the rural parts of the state, have reached that 20 mil floor. Now that's not true for all of them, because the one I like to point out is that's really the real anomaly is Cincinnati Public. Cincinnati Public Schools, big school district, urban school district, it is at the 20 mil floor. And so the people there in Cincinnati, as these values have gone up, have really been burdened with some really high increases.
And really the only difference of these other districts that pass levies is essentially voters, because many times they do have to pay a little bit more, right? Like per $100,000 that their home is worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just voters, I guess, agreeing to pass that and pay more for the district. Is that kind of the difference?
Exactly. If where these levies have kept them up off the floor, it's as a result of the local voters have voted for those levies, and that's our system of government. It's a majority rules, or we'll have people say, well, I don't have kids in school, why should I have to pay that? Well, the majority of the voters have voted for those levies and have voted to put that burden on themselves, and for good reason. And people will ask me, well, what are they doing with that money? I said, well, just go ask them. Go ask them. The schools will tell you that we need this money, and these are the services we're providing. We're trying to salaries for our teachers, benefits for our teachers, the buildings that we're trying to upkeep. It's a big job. It's a big job, and it's expensive, and so they're using that money as the voters have given them the opportunity to use it.
Great. So then what does this new law do then when it applying to districts that are in that 20 mil? How is that helping with property tax?
So again, this was an issue that county auditors took on, and we couldn't, it's a big state, a diverse state. You've got rural areas and industrial areas and urban districts, and so it's a big state. And so it's not often that county auditors can agree on things. But this was an area that we saw, well, this is an issue, it's a legitimate issue that affects a lot of people, maybe not a big part of my county. Those three districts, it affects 10% of the property owners in Montgomery County. So we're only talking about a small population in my county right now. But that could change. That could change in time to come. But we wanted to be supportive of our neighbors and the rest of the state that where this is a big issue. So I've advocated for this change. And what it will do is it will limit the amount of the increase. So even though they're at the 20 mil floor, it puts a cap on how much it can be increased. And so now there will be a rate of inflation. And so they'll still see an increase. Those schools will still get an increase as a result. But it won't be it won't be dollar for dollar or exactly what they were receiving in the past. It won't be a spike like they've received in the past. It'll be in accordance with what the rate of inflation, and there's a formula where they determine that. So that's what we'll see going into the future in every district that's sitting at the 20 mil floor.
Okay. And when will people then kind of be seeing, how quickly will people be seeing this relief then?
We won't be on their first half tax bill going into next year, but we are looking at it to be effective with the second half bill. It will require some programming work. At all the counties will have to do some work to figure out what that credit will be. But everybody that's at a school with their school districts at the 20 mil floor will get some relief come in during their second half bill. So we want to caution people in Montgomery County again, because we only have 3 districts that are at the 20 mil floor at the present time. So that's where they're going to see the impact there. It's only going to be in those 3 districts. But on the other hand, those 3 districts saw the largest increases the last time we've done updates, and we're trying to give some relief in the areas where it's been hit the hardest, and so that's what we'll see come second half.
Is that minimum that a school has to operate under, does that fluctuate even though it's still the 20 mil?
It will fluctuate
Okay.
based on what the total value is within that school district. The 20 mills in one district will raise a certain amount of money, and 20 mills in another district will raise a different amount of money. And so there are those inequities in the system. Quite frankly, that's when the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional. That's one of the issues, that it's inequitable. A mill, while it's a mill is considered it's $1 tax for every $1,000 of value. Well, a mill in Dayton will raise a certain amount of money more than a mill in, let's say, Steubenville or Lawrenceburg, or and so that's the inequity of it. So it will adjust, but the 20 mills will pay, the amount of the 20 mil will stay the same. So, and we don't want to mislead people, and that's why I say, I don't want everyone thinking that everybody's going to see a big tax break from this. If you're not at the 20 mil, if your school district's not at the 20 mil floor, you're not going to see a big break here. But even in those districts where you are at the 20 mil floor, so in Miamisburg, our estimates right now says it should be about on a $100,000 home, the credit should be about $80. For in Valley View at a $100,000 home, it'd be a $15 credit, and in New Lebanon it'll be a $45 credit. So we don't want people to think that it's not going to cut their taxes in half or anything like that. It's not going to be an overwhelming savings to them, but it's something. It's some type of relief, and this is what we could get the legislature to agree to.
With House Bill 335, can you just kind of go over? This briefly says here, the law caps the growth of inside millage at the rate of inflation.
Okay, so this is similar to the 20 mil floor issue, and so the impact is they're using this rate of inflation in order to put a cap on it. So inside millage, every taxpayer in the state pays 10 mills, unvoted mills, to support local government. And so we would call it unvoted millage or inside millage. It's not attached to a specific levy. It's in the state constitution. It's been set aside 10 mills, inside mills to pay for local government, period. So a portion of that will go to schools, a portion of it goes to the county, a portion of it goes to the city or the township, wherever your property is located. It's 10 mills, and again, it's supposed to support the general local government services. Well, it functions similar to the 20 mil floor issue as values have gone up as a result of the real estate market. That doesn't get rolled back. Those 10 mills don't get rolled back. So they have gone. The charge has gone up. So what this new bill does is in the future, it caps that at this rate of inflation so that we'll not see these spikes as a result of it. That's helpful. I don't want to dismiss it as being helpful, but then on the other hand, I don't want to mislead anybody. You're only talking 10 mills, and rolling it back to the rate of inflation, the amount of savings that will generate is going to be will not be overwhelming. It will not be a large dollar amount, but it'll be something.
You want to add anything to 129? I think it's almost sort of the same theme.
It is the same thing. it affects how the 20 mil floor calculation is made, what levies contribute to the 20 mil floor, and what levies are exempt from it. And so it changes that a little bit. And again, it's the same impact, it's the same issue that we're trying to address. And again, it gets down to school funding, and understandably so. Again, 60% of every tax dollar is going to support local schools. There is no way to address this issue or attack this issue without addressing the school funding issue.
And then 309, it says, expands the authority of county budget commissioners to reduce local government or school district tax rates if they determine collections are unnecessary or excessive.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know that districts are able to have money in a reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking this may apply to that, where if a district is seen as having an excessive amount in reserve, then the county budget commission can shift that. Is that correct, or what, am I missing anything from 309?
I don't know that you're missing anything. 309 is a little bit more controversial, I think, than some of the others, particularly among county auditors. Now, it was not one of the priorities of the County Auditors Association, so there's not widespread agreement among our members on the effectiveness of this, giving the County Budget Commission the authority to roll back a tax levy or roll back a voted levy that the voters have approved. And quite frankly, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think it's my place to question the voters. The voters have, this levy was put on the ballot. Voters have approved that levy. I don't think I'm in any position to say, well, I know better than the voters. The voters voted this levy, and I shouldn't be put in a position to roll that back now. That's up to the voters and the school district or the levying authorities. That's their issue. We're here to administer that, and I think I don't think that's my role to question that. I can question it, but I don't think it's my role to roll it back.
There was one that said that it changed how much tax breaks homeowners who live in their home will get versus people who own a home but like rent it out, essentially, like landlords. So I did read that there was one of these that was going to shift that to give more of a tax break over time to homeowners who live in their home versus landlords who would like rent out their property.
I think that was part of 186.
Yeah, that's what
I think it was a provision of 186.
Okay.
That it affected the owner occupancy.
Yes.
The owner occupancy rate, and so there is over time, and this was another proposal from the County Auditors Association, so we supported this. So over time, the 10% rollback that every residential property receives in Ohio, it's going to shift that away and add it to the owner occupancy credit. So over time, the owner occupancy credit right now is 2.5%. Over time, it's going to grow to 15%, where it's going to transfer off some of that. And so that will give some relief to those who own their own homes, owner-occupied homes. The 124 is what we call flip the script legislation. It gives auditors more authority over what homes or what properties we are using, what sales we are using in order to determine property values rather than the state. It gives us a little bit more authority than giving all that authority to the state. And that's why we call it flip the script. Again, will that have a big impact on providing tax relief? We don't think so, but it might help administratively a little bit.
I know there's also, somewhat of I don't want to say like a huge push, but it's an idea that I know at least one legislator has floated out there of wanting to end property tax altogether. In my research, I didn't find that there's any state that has zero property tax right now.
That's correct.
Some have very low percentages. Is there a world that would work in?
I think eliminating the property tax completely, the talk would be a big mistake. Would cause chaos throughout Ohio. The proposal that's out there, and there's a citizens group that's circulating petitions to try to get this on an issue on the ballot for people to vote on to eliminate the property tax, a constitutional amendment, and they're trying to get enough signatures that would put that on the ballot. I think in November of 26 is their target right now. And I don't want to be overly critical of them because I understand where they're coming from. As I said, the burden of the property tax in Ohio has been something that people have been complaining about since the 80s, and have been looking for some relief and been looking for the legislature to do something to address this issue, and they just haven't felt like they've been heard. And so this has grown out of their frustration, their anger. Okay, well, if you won't listen to us, we'll put it on the ballot, we'll just eliminate it altogether. But eliminating it altogether, the tax funds some vital, important public services. And I think it's $24 billion across the state that is the property tax supports. And so, again, schools, police, fire, human services. We have a very significant human services levy here in Montgomery County, and so you're talking about eliminating all of that, and with no plan in place to replace that. And so, what are we talking about? Eliminating all of those services and gutting our schools, and those types of consequences. Well, they mean well. Well, the people who are advocating for this mean well. They want to see something done. That's not the answer. That's not the answer. And I think they're frustrated with the Ohio legislature. They're frustrated with the people in Columbus, and I get that. I am too. But I think their frustration and their anger is misdirected because none of these tax dollars go to Columbus. No one in Columbus is dependent on these tax dollars to fund any services that the state provides. These are all local services, all local schools, local human services, local police and fire. And so what you're talking about is you're really taking your frustration out on yourself. It's your own community, your own people in your community that will suffer from this. And so I don't think that's a good idea.
To that point, I think, there was another idea floated around that, if we got rid of property tax, then we could institute a higher sales tax. Isn't that, granted, not everyone owns property, so not everyone pays property tax, but I would argue if you rent, a lot of your rent money covers some of that, right?
Correct.
I would think.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, we kind of all do. But isn't that just, you're still going to be paying it somewhere, correct?
Correct.
We can't just do without this much money.
The question is really where are you going to raise it from? And so we operate now in Ohio basically on a footstool with three tiers on it. You've got an income tax, a state income tax, a sales tax, and a property tax, and they all have their place. And again, the income tax, state income tax, is most of it is funding services at the state, where the sales tax is funding a little bit from the state and locally, and the property tax is all local. We did an estimate. If we eliminated the property tax completely here in Montgomery County and would replace it with a sales tax, you're talking about an 18% increase in the sales tax, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that, and I don't think the state will allow that. And so, that's another issue when people say, well, they'll just raise the state sales tax. Well, we've talked with legislators, and they've pretty well indicated they will not do that. It will make Ohio completely uncompetitive with other states. Particularly, those of us who are close to the border. So why would anyone buy anything here when they can drive over to Indiana and pay a lot less in sales tax over there, or to Kentucky or wherever, and so I don't think that's the answer.